It's a very historic episode for us here on the Kirby on Sports podcast, episode 200. And we could not have done it without our amazing sponsors, PM Plus Reserves, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, changing very soon, so be on the lookout. Shenandoah Primitives, Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate, Barrett, Pest, and Termite Services, Mark Lynch with Guild Mortgage, Shenandoah Music, and the official energy drink of the Kirby on Sports podcast, Don't Sleep Energy. Use promo code KOS Podcast for 12% off your order every single time. Boy, it was an exciting Super Wildcard weekend for sure. We dive into that, plus the Divisional Round matchups and the Kirby on Sports Playoff PickEm. All comes your way next. You don't want to miss it. Welcome to episode 200. Once again, I cannot thank each and every one of you for your support. 200 episodes strong on the Kirby on Sports podcast. And we're not wasting any more time with us. He was not on with us last week. He is back. The weapon, Dan Dembski, 200 strong, my friend.
You always got to put me on blast for my absences, man. It's...
No. We understand you had stuff to do. We're just glad you're back.
Well, thank you very much. It was a nice week to just relax and watch to see who my team's going to play this weekend. So it was a little more chill for an NFL Sunday for me than it usually is, which is never a bad thing.
And welcoming Carlos the Swiss Army Knife Martinez, 200 strong, my friend.
No, Jerry, I will absolutely not take that job. That's the worst thing to ever happen to you. Oh, I'm on the show. I'll call you back. Hi. Hello. Hello, friends.
Good start.
How are you, buddy?
Oh, we'll talk about it later.
I'm sure we will, but Super Wildcard Weekend has come.
Super Wildcard Weekend.
And it has gone, and we have a lot to touch on throughout the course of this weekend. But one very interesting note, which I disagreed with at the start, but when I realized what Buffalo was dealing with, I understand why they moved it to Monday. But so it was 2 games on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, and 2 on Monday. Very weird layout, but they got it done. But it comes
down, actually kind of made more sense. Do 2 games.
Plus,
because it's always going to fall on this long weekend, right? Because it'll always fall on Martin Luther King Day weekend, which is a holiday for most, not everybody. I still work, but I mean, technically I could have taken the day, but I had other circumstances.
But still, you see that weather in Buffalo. You just look, there's no way you're getting the game in like everybody else has been saying. That's why they moved the game. So it was just very interesting. The layout 2-2-2 over Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, which was very interesting. But the only reason why I thought I disagreed with it at first is because, well, now 2 teams are at a disadvantage on Monday.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
But I mean, it is what it is. And
well, that's why I think the Monday playoff game is the dumbest thing ever. I don't know why we're doing a Monday playoff game every year. It does not make sense. Just put 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and Saturday that's and it. Sunday. Because, for Dallas, for instance, last season, they were at that disadvantage going into San Francisco because They played on Monday, and I think San Francisco actually played on Saturday. So San Francisco had like 2 days rest before Dallas even played.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Monday night game is really dumb for wild card weekend. Also, like, it's, just put 3 on Saturday. Just start the first game at 1:00. I hated waiting until 4:30 for that first game. It was terrible.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But but you're right, Kirby. In this case, now obviously they needed to move the game because of the horrible weather that they were having up there in Buffalo.
Crazy
but yeah, now you got 2 teams that are in a disadvantage, and it's the same case with Buffalo. At least they get to stay home, but it's the same case with Buffalo. Kansas City played Saturday night, and now they got 2 days rest advantage, and Buffalo is on, coming off on a short week now.
It was funny too that Buffalo obviously brought everybody in who wanted to, paid them $20 an hour to shovel, but there were no assigned seats for the game. You just find your place, shovel off your seat, and you're good to go.
Yeah, to see what some of the fans had to walk through, which was like hip deep snow.
Well,
like,
yeah,
holy blank, like that was crazy. But
yeah,
you got to give credit where credit's due. They were able to pull it off. It was still a good environment. I'm sure they didn't have as packed of a house as they normally do, but yeah, great job.
Yeah, just really bad weather all around this weekend, and right now currently.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Winter is definitely here. It took a while to get here, but yeah, it's made its appearance finally.
You know what the Starks always say: winter is coming. Well, winter is finally here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right, let's get into it, boys. Hopefully a lot to talk about, but the first game, the Texans over the Browns. The Texans wanted this, and they got it, and they're moving on. They're traveling to Baltimore to face the Ravens, but really happy for C.J. Stroud and the Texans. This has been a long time coming.
What do you mean a long time coming? It's his rookie year.
I'm sorry.
For the Texans?
For the Texans.
Not even for the Texans. They were in the playoffs not too long ago. It's only been a few years.
Couple 2 or 3 years. I forget exactly, but
yeah, I guess that's true. But
for their future, it's been a long time.
This was the way I'd put it is this was a very great start to a very bright future for this franchise.
I like that.
Obviously, coming off of the Deshaun Watson trade, and the whole Billy O Stooge stuff, this franchise for the past 2 seasons was basically in purgatory. They had 2 different head coaches, and they basically had a top pick, a top 5 pick 2 years in a row. And for them to really hit on bringing back D'Amico Ryans, who of course was obviously a former player, and then to draft, C.J. Stroud when everybody was poo-pooing on him, I don't understand why, because you always saw the upside of him in college. You saw some of his bad side in college too, but you saw his game against Georgia in that semifinal game where it took Georgia till truly until midnight, till the new year to win that game. Everybody was trying to, his draft stock was dropping for some reason. It didn't make any sense. And they were still sold on the guy. And they drafted correctly. And then for them to then trade up or trade back into the first round, because I don't think they had a second first round draft pick. But then they traded back in to then draft, Will Anderson Jr. was monumental. And this coaching staff is getting the most out of a talent pool of players that really should not be playing like this. CJ Stroud is elevating a lot of his players here, and that defense is playing fantastic. Obviously, I did not pick the Texans, and that was because I really thought that Cleveland defense was going to do something. CJ Stroud cut them up. Like they had no shot, and it was a masterclass. It truly was a masterclass, and I'm happy to see that, man. CJ Stroud this kid is gonna be something special. Like, he really is. You can just see it. This team plays so much different when he's on the field. He elevates, and that's a great sign for the future of this franchise.
And not only that, like the fact that the Browns defense had been so solid most of the season too, and we talked about them throughout the year, being able to kind of plug Joe Flacco in for that team, and they had a good enough defense to where, they could afford, he could afford his 3 touchdown, 2 interception game, which he had several of this season. That's how good that Browns defense has been. So yeah, to come out and have a game like he had against that defense was, it certainly wasn't something I expected. Now, obviously, I picked the Texans to win this game, but I didn't think it was going to be that much of a dominating performance by Houston. So you got to give them credit.
A lot of blowouts this week.
Just a young, hungry team that just, they probably heard all the talk about how the Browns had come into that game so hot because they had. I feel like a lot of people weren't giving them a chance, and that makes a big difference, especially in these early rounds of the playoffs. So, we saw some games that were definitely upsets, and this was probably one.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
The granddaddy of them all.
I'm ready for it. I'm so ready for it. Let's go. Come on.
It's chops already.
I'm ready.
But yeah, it was just a great performance, and the Browns were just extremely disappointing on both.
Those
sides of the ball.
back-to-back pick sixes were killer.
Brutal
for Joe
brutal.
Flacco.
And in the third quarter too, you have to protect the football, and yeah, so it was game over at that point. I think Carlos had said that in the group chat, or Kirby, I can't remember, but maybe not.
Well, I don't think it was me. I don't think it was me.
Hard to remember. Watched a lot of football over the weekend, so but yeah, it was just a really bad performance by Cleveland, and
I feel bad for Flacco.
I don't.
Why? Why? Why do you feel bad for Flacco?
2 months ago, he didn't have a job. He was sitting on his couch. He was able to step in. It was a good story.
Yeah.
To help get the Browns to the playoffs, but reality was going to hit them sooner or later, I think, anyway, and it certainly hit them earlier than I think a lot of people expected. But I don't know what's going to happen next season with Flacco.
What's going to happen with just the Browns in general? I mean,
I think you have to stick with Deshaun Watson.
You have to, because it's a fully guaranteed contract, but it's like the guy can't stay healthy. He's never there for his team when they need him. Like, I mean, has he played a full season as a Browns quarterback yet? No. It's been 3 years now. It'll be 3 seasons starting next season that this trade was made, and still nothing. Like,
ridiculous.
This trade was an absolute botch by the Cleveland Browns. It really was. They lost. They truly lost this trade, it feels like. Now, obviously, that can change. Next year, Deshaun Watson might come back and go on a tear. But to be honest, man, it's not like he was playing that great when he was, healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to look at his stats here. Yeah, 7 touchdowns, 4 picks, 5-1 this year. But again, Browns have a great defense, and I think the defense was the reason they won most of those games, if I recall correctly. I know one of those was against the Ravens, which was kind of a high-scoring game. So besides that one. But let's see. The last time he's played.
The last game he played was that Ravens game.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, because six starts, both in the last. 12 starts in the last 2 years, 6 starts in this year and in 2022, and then of course missed all of the 2021 season, as we know. So it's been a bad trade for the clowns. Well, I guess you could call them that.
Well,
your AFC North bias is showing.
The good news here: Baltimore still loves Joe Flacco, and he does not have to travel to Baltimore.
Yeah, that's fair. Fair. That is fair.
That's
Baltimore
fair.
was always going to love him regardless, just because he did bring a title to the.
We have to look at.
He had one of the greatest playoff runs ever. He was just elite.
We sure paid him for it as well.
Yeah. It's not like he didn't have success post the Super Bowl. It's just you guys never reached it again.
Yeah, he was. He was always an average regular season quarterback, which I think this year he kind of was. He just had some flashes of greatness, and it's just when he gets into the playoffs, that's when he gets hot. And I think a lot of people thought that was going to be the case this year, but Father Time stays undefeated. There's no
Tom
defeating it.
Begs to differ.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Tom Brady's going to come back, 3 more times.
Definitely not. He's about to replace Greg Olsen next season, which I think is stupid, but
He's so good. He's so good in the booth.
Greg Olsen, he's so good.
He's just a natural. But
Anyhow.
that's all I have. I think,
there's not too much to talk about this game. Congratulations to Houston.
They deserved it. Really.
Yeah, they did great.
They were better in all three phases. And good for D'Amico Ryans. I really hope they keep him
Coach of
around.
the year, I want to say, like, he's got to be. I mean,
he's got to be up there, right?
I mean, it was between him and Stefanski, and he just dominated Stefanski, so it has to be him. And also, how do you go? You go from having the second overall pick to division winners,
and
winning a playoff
does that
game.
happen?
Like that's not an accident, you know.
No, it's not. Yeah, I think he's clearly the winner right now. Can't think of a better coach. So more deserving coach.
A more deserving coach, yeah. I can think of a better coach, but
sure.
So the Texans moving on against the Browns, defeating them 45-14. In the late window, people raised hell about this game being exclusively on Peacock.
Man, enough with that BS, okay? Everybody acting like it's so hard to have Peacock. It's $5.99. I had it because I watch WWE PLEs that they call it now, pay-per-views. So I already had it. It wasn't a hassle to get. Like, enough with the complaining. Like, my God, it's not like everybody doesn't have 15,000 streaming services that are paying $20 for Disney Plus ad-free or Hulu ad-free, and they're acting like $5.99 is a holy sin to have. My God, please forgive me. And the local markets of Kansas City and Miami still got it free on TV. What the hell are we complaining about?
If you're gonna, I don't know. I disagree. But
No. Should this game have been on regular TV? 100%. Okay, it shouldn't. Like, there should be no in the playoffs. There should be no exclusive stream.
Yeah,
game, right?
that's
I agree with that.
Point.
But all I'm saying is this outroar of having to pay $5.99 is blasphemous. It's BS. You guys are paying $20 for Disney Plus.
You're not wrong about that point. It is.
I know, because it comes out of my bank account every time, and it hurts every time.
It's steep, man. It's very steep.
Yeah,
I mean, I agree. I think in the playoffs, I think we have the technology now to where you can do both, right? Like, if you want to have a stream and maybe make it more.
That's what they do for Sunday Night Football. So, like, I watch Sunday Night Football off of Peacock because it just streams better. Like, the quality of the stream is much better because it's off of an app. Channel. The Xfinity stream app does not stream very high quality for some reason. Like, it's HD, but it's not the best. But when I have it off of Peacock, it's like 4K basically. So, so like, they already do that. Sunday Night Football just streams on Peacock as well. I don't understand why we have a Peacock exclusive game. I understand that's stupid, but again, complaining about the price and stuff is stupid to me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Somebody on Capitol Hill actually wrote a letter to the NFL about that.
Who cares about those stooges on Capitol Hill? How about they focus on the government budget instead of Peacock?
I agree. As someone whose job is important here,
there's bigger things to worry about than writing a letter to the NFL about having an exclusive stream on Peacock. Fucking moron. Sorry, excuse my French.
But besides that, I was not complaining about it, but just the consensus of
you were. I know you were complaining about it because you're one of those complainers. You're a complainer, Kirby.
No.
He said you are a complainer. You're a Karen of all Karens, dude. I've driven through Maryland with you. I know you're a complainer.
Well, now my father was actually like, "Are we gonna have to pay $5.99 for this?"
There it is. There it is.
It's also a generational thing too. Like, I think it's easy for our generation because, like, we grew up like in the era of streaming and Netflix when it first started and stuff like that. So it's different for us too because we're like, it's easy. You know, we already have an account or whatever. But I think it's harder for any older generation to sort of get into that, which I understand. Plus, I mean, you guys are right. It should be on standard.
It should be on standard cable. It should have been on NBC. Well. It shouldn't have been on Peacock. It really shouldn't have. But again, my whole thing, like, I do understand that, like, the older generation having more issues with it because they're not as tech savvy, right? I understand that.
Yeah, and it's just nothing to pay
but when
for.
I see people like our age range, Gen Z, like late millennial, early millennial people complaining about it, I'm like, guys, what are we doing here? Like, don't act like you don't already have Peacock. Like, You guys all talk about watching The Office 15,000 times. It's only on
Yeah.
Peacock.
That's true. That's true.
Well, yeah. Well, it's funny because my dad was like, "Man, what's the next thing? The NFL's gonna turn to pay-per-view." I'm like, "Oh,
I mean, I
They
wouldn't
could-
be surprised.
I could see them do that for like either
I mean, you
regular
already have
season
to
games.
pay like $500 for Sunday ticket.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It's already pay-per-view.
yeah."
Yeah. But I think I don't know. It's something the NFL's got to figure out. Go one way or the other.
It's too this is what it's going to be. They've already signed the deal. NBC Universal Peacock, whatever. They've already paid $110 million for that exclusive playoff game.
Yeah.
People are just going to have to suck it up and understand. But also, it's been known. That's why, like, when people were all surprised by it, I was like, guys, they announced this like at the beginning of the year. Like, I already knew that they were going to have a Peacock game. So that's on you for not being prepared.
Well, you give people credit that they read these things. Nobody pays attention to them until
that's fair.
until it comes up.
I guess that's fair. I knew for a long time there was going to be a Peacock exclusive game, but I already had Peacock because I like to watch WWE for free.
There you go. That's right.
So
I guess it's not really for free since I'm paying $5.99. But
so, gentlemen, with that being said, it was a very, 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 very cold game in Kansas City. The Chiefs defeat the Dolphins 26-7. I mean, that was a cold one. If it wasn't for the underground field heating at Arrowhead Stadium, not sure what they're gonna do.
Play the game.
Yeah.
Freeze to death. I don't
No,
know.
I was kidding.
The hell.
But I mean, what a one-sided game. I don't think Miami was equipped in the cold.
Oh, they had no chance. Yeah,
yeah.
It was apparent from the start.
Look, naturally they weren't going to have a chance. They're like, you can't knock them too hard because like they play in Miami. Like you can't give them so much grief for not being a cold weather team because again, it's Miami. What can they really do? They can't help that where their team is located it stays pretty much warm year round. It stays above 50 degrees year round. And this was the fourth coldest game in NFL history.
Yeah. It was crazy to see how cold it was.
Yeah.
It was very cold. I mean, you had beer cans exploding. You had, as soon as they would pull water bottles out of the cooler, they would freeze.
Andy
Reid's
Mahomes
helmet breaking, the snot icicles on a mustache. It was but yet Kansas City played like they play. They did not let the weather affect them. And they made that mental decision to show Miami, like, hey, this cold ain't going to mess with us. We're going to play the way we play, and you got to find a way to stop us. And Miami just was not mentally as tough as Kansas City. Again, granted, Kansas City, now they're not used to, again, -4 degree weather with, minus 30 degree wind chill. Nobody's used to that, but they're used to playing in the cold. So for them, it's not, it's not that hard to get used to. Whereas Miami, I mean, this is why it was so important that they beat the Bills and win that division, because think about it, they would have instead been facing the Steelers in Miami instead of having to go to, Kansas, frozen Kansas City.
Yeah, and it just felt like the Dolphins were off from the start, and Kansas City kind of looked like their old selves a little bit. I was impressed with how they used, someone who Carlos has talked about they needed to use more was Rashee Rice throughout the season. And gosh, they used him a lot in this game. They got him the ball a good amount, and he's been their most consistent receiver, I'd say, all season as far as not dropping the football and stuff like that when he has gotten the chance. But yeah, it was just a really great game plan by Andy Reid and Kansas City in general. I felt like they were just more comfortable, and the Chiefs are definitely a concern. I think certainly they've been there, done that in the postseason. We all know about the Super Bowl, so this coming up week is going to be a heck of a matchup. I know we're going to talk about it, but they could be, I know it's hard to say this, but they could be peaking at the right time. I think this win is
I think the difference being right now is that game plan that they had for this game was let's just get our playmaker. Let's just give it to our playmakers. Let's just give it to
simple game
Pacheco.
plan.
Let's give
Yeah.
it to Rice, and let's try to get Kelsey involved. They did not really involve, MVS. Who of course he did have one catch in this game, but he's never been reliable. They didn't really. Yeah, they just kept trying to give it to the playmakers, and when you give it to your playmakers, for the most part, good things happen. Now, Travis Kelce did have a bunch of drops in this game, but there's a secret to Travis Kelce that just dawned on me the other day, is that Travis Kelce has actually always been a guy who drops passes. It's just before he's always been able to make these big plays that make up
Everyone
for it.
forgets.
Whereas this year he has not been able to necessarily do it. I do think Travis Kelce is hurt this year. I don't think he's 100% healthy. I think also age might be starting to catch up to him a little bit. So maybe he's just not as
10 years.
He just doesn't have the same step that he did, say, maybe even last year. He might have lost a little bit of his step, but I think at the same time, though, you have to get him involved because he's going to make something happen. And, and while hasn't been the most epic season for him, like he still had a pretty solid season. He almost had 1,000, receiving yards. He was only 16 off. He would have had it had Kadarius Toney not been off sides in that, in the Buffalo game after they made that incredible play that would have won the game. And Pacheco's just a beast, man. Like his running ability was incredible on Saturday night, and it was impressive. He was really putting the hurt on these Dolphins defenders.
Yeah, putting his shoulder into him.
But there are still concerns about this Kansas City offense. They really struggled in the red zone to finish the drives, and they were also having a hard time with this, patchworked Miami defensive line that was still getting pressure on him, despite the fact that they got guys that were coming off the couch like 3 weeks ago. And their tackles, the Chiefs tackles are not good. Juwan Taylor is terrible. He can't run block. He makes a lot of dumb mistakes and gets a lot of penalties. And even Creed Humphrey, you saw, our stout center, he even got like upset at one point when Juwan Taylor got a penalty, because he's like, man, this guy again, like really, like, come on, dude. But, again, it's not going to be the Kansas City offense that really is going to do this. It's that defense. That defense aside from that long Tyreek Hill touchdown, they shut it down. Nobody else got anything over them. I mean, Trent McDuffie was just he was the one who let that touchdown, that long touchdown pass go. But like after that, he was angry, and he just shut Tyreek down. I mean, he made that huge hit on Tyreek. And then of course the Jerry Sneed at one point. I mean, even Tyreek made the joke about it, like, pressed him into Cancun or whatever. Just like I saw that play happen. I was like, oh, like just jammed him like straight off the line and just like knocked him down. And you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And yeah, our defense is just flying everywhere. They just look like such a cohesive unit. Like they all just know where they need to go, where they need to be, how to play. They're just so together. It's so fun to watch that when they're just flying around everywhere. And yeah, man, I mean, this is good. I mean, look, we got the Bills, Mahomes, Allen 3, basically, coming up in the playoffs. It's
gonna be a fun one.
But this time it's in Buffalo. But given what they just went through in Kansas City, playing in that negative degree weather, I mean, this will obviously be Mahomes' first away playoff game. I don't think that environment's going to mess with them that much. I really don't. In terms of at least the weather, we'll see if the atmosphere of the fans is going to affect them. But I think
it's going to be unfamiliar territory.
It will be, but I mean,
an away playoff game.
We can't sit here and act like Mahomes hasn't played an away game. Sure, it hasn't played an away playoff game, which is kind of a different animal. But I have faith in the guy. I think
you have to.
He's the baby goat. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, we'll see.
But also in terms of Miami, like, let me pose the question to you guys.
It's a question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Do you give Tua the extension? Do you think Tua is the guy to lead this team to the promised land? I'm posing it to you guys.
It's so hard. So hard.
I mean, I say give him the extension. I think he has weapons. Yeah, that's tough. There's too many variables.
There's not too many variables. There's not.
In my mind.
No, I disagree. I think
I'm going to say no.
Tua was healthy all year this year. And he had Tyreek having an unbelievable season. He's got a great
one of the best seasons of all time. But
he obviously did not get it. He didn't break the record. But also Tyreek is also getting closer. He's going to be 30 next year. So you got to think he's going to eventually start slowing down soon.
It's that ripe age for a receiver.
You had a ginormous lead on the division, but you literally only beat one winning team, which was the Dallas Cowboys, unfortunately. Of course, it's us. But against every other challenge, you came up short. You could not beat the Bills at home, and you got your butts kicked on the road. You could not beat the Philadelphia Eagles, who have been shown to be absolute frauds. You could not beat the Tennessee Titans, who are not a winning team, but you could not beat them, which ultimately costed you guys the division, essentially, because had they won that game, going into the Buffalo game, there would have been no issues with winning the division. So to me, it's like, Tua has had issues staying healthy. Granted, he stayed healthy all year this year. And when he plays against tomato can teams, he does well. Especially but then when they step up to an actual physical team, he does not do well. He obviously sucks in cold weather. He's never been in cold weather. He grew up in Hawaii, went to Alabama, and now plays in Miami. Like, he's never been a cold weather guy. And when you look at the echelon of the AFC in terms of quarterbacks, you are looking at obviously the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, the Joe Burrows, the Lamar Jacksons. Can't leave him out, obviously, because he's about to win an MVP. Cannot leave Lamar out. There's another one. Baltimore, you get completely spanked. By Baltimore.
Yeah.
When you look at those guys, what is one thing that they all have in common? They all play in cold weather cities, essentially.
It's true.
So how can you trust this guy to be the one who's going to lead you to the promised land?
Yeah.
Unless you get home field advantage. But I don't see them getting home field advantage. I don't. Because, again, when they come up against tougher teams, I don't trust Tua to be the clutch quarterback.
Whereas you said a physical team, just a team like Tennessee, a scrappy team that had nothing to play for, beat him too. So
let's see. He's still in his rookie deal, right? Like, he still has one. This is his 5th year right now coming up.
Let me double check that too.
I believe. Obviously, he's due for an extension.
I think he gets the extension. Whether
well, I mean, it came out that the owner wants to make him the long-term quarterback. Yes, but to me, if I was running the Dolphins, I need another year. I need him to show me that, okay, you made great progress this year, but you're having issues against this. Show me one more year that you are the guy and you can put up numbers. And granted, I'm not asking for a Super Bowl here. I'm just asking for you to show me that you can compete with the big boys.
I like your point there. I think the Dolphins extend him, but I like the point Carlos brings out. Give me another year, because if next year he can't go out and beat the winning teams, then
I think I maybe franchise tagging him is the best option, and you give him an ultimatum, and you see how he does. I think that's a smart way for the Dolphins to do this. But we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do. I mean, I'm kind of with Carlos. He hasn't proven it to me, and this year especially, they've choked against good competition. And if you're going to be the best quarterback and you're going to get the huge contract extension, you have to win against good teams. So we'll see what happens. But he certainly has had flashes this year where he's been brilliant. I mean, you can't deny
I
how he started
agree.
the season and
100%.
stuff like that. But it's all about consistency, not asking him to be brilliant all season, just beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And if you have a chance to, advance your seed, don't lose to the Tennessee Titans, a team that fired their head coach.
Or you got to be able to beat Josh Allen. Like
right.
That's the other thing is like it's not as
division.
if they lost the division that day, but it was so consequential in terms of setting up for them to play Buffalo and for him to throw that game-losing interception.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
At the same, like you have great weapons on this offense. You have Tyreek, you have Jalen Waddle. Now, granted, Tyreek got hurt and wasn't in that last drive of that game, but they played Kansas City and Germany, and Kansas City dominated them in that first half. And then
that's right.
In that second half, they did make that they made a brief comeback and came up a touchdown short, and it was 21-14. But it wasn't like Tua was playing his best. It wasn't until like the end of the game that he started making some plays. And then obviously you come into this game and it just was not, it just was never there for Miami. So to me, it's just, I don't know. For me, I don't think I give him the contract extension just yet. I mean, it's a hard argument to make just because you have like Justin Herbert who got his contract extension. And what has Herbert done? Herbert hasn't even won a playoff game yet,
Yeah.
And then you have Tua, who is kind of in the same boat. He's been to the playoffs, and he did not win a playoff game either. So it's hard to make the argument to not re-sign him to a new or give him the contract extension. But at the same time, I'm just like, I need to see one more year of this and see if you are continuing to progress.
And especially staying healthy was huge. I think if he gets hurt this year, there's no question. Like, no, you don't do it. It's a definite no. But he definitely showed times this year where he could be that franchise quarterback. But I totally agree with you, Carlos. I think it'd be smart for them to franchise tag him next year and just see, and I think that motivates him as well. Like, hey.
Well, again, if he's on his rookie deal, he's got one more year, right? He's on his 5th year option. I'm positive.
Yeah, this year. Yeah, 2024. Correct.
Yeah, so this season so they don't need a franchise tag him. He's on his rookie deal. So let him play this out. And then at the end of the year, if you guys can't really come to terms, franchise tag him and continue to work on a deal with him.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Now, obviously, the fear in that is that then his price is going to go up. But
if he plays better, yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's like maybe re-sign him now, you get him for the cheap. Like, again, $40 million a year nowadays is nothing for a quarterback.
Yeah, it's the going rate is
they really
insane.
need it because now quarterback contracts
like
are
crazy.
they're getting very expensive. They got to figure out the salary cap in a way so that re-signing a quarterback doesn't hinder a team because quarterbacks are just demanding so much. Even when they're mid-level quarterbacks, again, they're demanding $40 million a year. Like, that's crazy.
Some of them, I mean, well, it's like, what have you
It's
done?
like Daniel
You haven't
Jones.
done
Like,
anything.
Daniel Jones has one great season, gets $160 million deal, and it's just like, oh.
And you can thank Deshaun Watson for screwing that up for, for every other team because now it's just gotten ridiculous. So,
yeah.
With that being said,
whole tangent there. Oof.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we spent a long time on that. We'll have to sort of cut through these next few games.
We're not because it's what's next.
Yeah, it's what's next. But the Chiefs over the Dolphins. We take a quick break, and we're back with more episode 200 of the Kirby on Sports podcast. For sports fans living in condominium and homeowners associations, as well as business professionals, when you need a reserve study, PM Plus Reserves has been in business since 1990. Their studies are accurate and easy to understand. Check them out when your association needs a study. www.pmplusreserves.com. You can also contact them at 703-803-8888. 8436. Once again, www.pmplusreserves.com. Is it finally time to upgrade your home's interior? How about with an authentic farm table made locally from recycled barnwood? Shenandoah Primitives, based right here in Winchester, Virginia, makes farm tables, benches, tables, coffee tables, and a long list of other items for your home decorating needs. At Shenandoah Primitives, function and style are combined for great furniture that will last generations. If you're interested in combining the industrial look of metal with wood, or considering something incredibly unique with a live edge, Shenandoah Primitives turns those ideas into reality. Thinking about a mirror, wine rack, or other accent piece for your home, Shenandoah Primitives can assist with that as well. As a local small business, Shenandoah Primitives is happy to work with each client for a custom design or schedule an appointment to come out and view current inventory. Local, high-quality, handmade items can be found at Shenandoah Primitives. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or visit us at www.shenandoahprimitives.com. Once again, that's www.shenandoahprimitives.com. And we welcome you back to episode 200 of the Kirby on Sports podcast. And
He's already laughing.
yeah,
It's fine. I get it.
Send him off. Let's go.
Well, yeah, I think this is going to be a very one-sided
Just shut up and let the
beat
man talk.
down, trashing a number 7 seed in the Green Bay Packers marching into AT&T Stadium and defeating the Dallas Cowboys. For the record, the first time this has ever happened. We saw the group chats, Dan. It was not pretty. And I don't think the whole game was watched by you, Carlos. But I think with that, Carlos, let's hear what you have to say, buddy.
Well, boys, here we are again. Just like clockwork, here we are again.
I have a question. Are you rescinding your fanhood again?
Oh, he's actually thinking about it now.
It's a question that will be deliberated for the next few months. I don't know, man. It's just obviously like I'll never stop being a Cowboys fan. I just won't. It would never happen. But it's just not great for my mental health. It's really not. Just the way this team just crushes me time and time again. I mean, I feel like this is going to be year 3 in a row of me having to come on the show post wild card, post division round, basically having to bash this team for just embarrassing us again. And these guys it's just ridiculous at this point. Like, what did we do as a franchise or as a fan base to deserve this? Like, the Cowboys have been riding the coattails of the 90s teams for 30 years now. And like, they keep talking about, there's a standard here. What is the standard? You guys have not lived up to that standard for almost 30 years. Next year's Super Bowl in 2025, it will be officially 30 years since your last Super Bowl win.
Crazy.
Since your last championship game appearance. Like, I don't understand how they came out knowing the pressure that was on them. And granted, a lot of people have been talking about maybe it's just the pressure of the star has just become too much that these players just can't do it. But I say that's BS at the same time, because it's like, at the end of the game, this is just a game of football. You guys have been playing. I mean, Dak had an MVP season and he reverted back to how he looked last year, not reading the safeties, making rush throws. Like, it was so bad. And I just like I just knew like after that first drive, like the Packers come down the field, I just knew. I just felt it. I was just like, oh, this is not going to go well. Like they just don't have it. And then we get one first down, and then we go 3 and out. And then from there, it was score by Green Bay, and then interception that was a pick six, but then wasn't a pick six, and then pick six, and then
actual pick six.
It was just I don't know, man. I think this one is harder because at least with the 49ers, you could make the case of
playing a great really
this team is just better than us.
Yeah.
Granted, we had our opportunities in that game, but they just executed better when it mattered most. And like we were in those games for the most part. And obviously they both ended very embarrassingly with 2021 at home against San Francisco, Dak Prescott having poor clock management, and the ref getting in the way, and the clock running out. And then last year against San Francisco, the last play is just Zeke getting obliterated, snapping the ball to Dak, and the play not going anywhere. This was, I think, worse because we should have, this team should have beaten the Packers. They should have. There's no excuse here. Everything had lined up perfectly. They got what they wanted. They won the division. They got the second seed. They were, we all, and we got the 2 guaranteed home games basically, and I think that they came out thinking that they were just going to win, that they started smelling themselves, and that they were going to, just dominate at home because that's what we always do. And they looked so unprepared, and they just got out-coached, outplayed, and just out-physicaled by a team who got into the playoffs by the skin of their teeth. All week I was hearing just, oh, this is not the same Packers of before. The bad man, the boogeyman, Aaron Rodgers isn't walking through there. We should handle Jordan Love. And then you go and look and you see, oh, well, Jordan Love's actually been really good since Thanksgiving. Maybe we should chill out. And it was just the defense was terrible. The offense was out of sync. Special teams couldn't get it going either. In all 3 phases of the game, Green Bay dominated us. And this one hurts more because it's well, what do we do? What is the problem now? Because last year it was, oh, well, the offense kind of sputtered at the end and we're not as good, right? Kellen Moore's offense was not great. But this year, it was not that. We were coming into the playoffs playing great. And then they just crapped the bed. And now, I thought we had a pretty great offseason last offseason, trading for Gilmore, trading for Brendan Cooks, 2 great moves that paid dividends this season. And now it's just okay, well, we made all these moves, but now what? Is it really fire Mike McCarthy? Are we really going to fire a coach? Obviously, in the heat of the moment, everybody wanted him fired. But when you really let cooler heads prevail, you have to really think, okay, do we really want to fire the coach who, before he came, under Jason Garrett, the playoffs were never guaranteed? We would get there and then we'd have 2 straight 8-8 seasons, and then we'd show back up. Do we get rid of the guy who then came in? Granted, his first year was not great because it was the COVID year. And then on top of that, Dak Prescott had his bad injury. But then the 3 seasons following, it's been 3 straight 12-5 years. Obviously, we got knocked out in the wild card, and then we got knocked out in the divisional, and now we've got knocked out in the wild card again. But do you really want to let go? Who replaces him? Obviously, then everybody throws out, oh, Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick's not coming to Dallas. Let's stop the cap right now. He's not coming because Jerry Jones and him will not be able to coexist.
Yeah,
Jerry wants control. Bill Belichick wants control. They're not going to work. And also, Bill likes to draft his kind of players. We have a whole department set up just for that with Will McClay. Like, we're not changing that. The way Dallas's draft process is our bread and butter. We love the draft process because we typically draft very well. Granted, last year's draft class didn't really contribute as well this season, but that's besides the point. So then you look down the list. Okay, Jim Harbaugh. I wouldn't hate it, but I'm not like up in arms about it. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. I mean, Jim Harbaugh hasn't been in the NFL for years. And granted, we know he's had NFL success. We saw what he did with the 49ers and how he turned that franchise around, because before he got there, that franchise was also in purgatory.
Mm-hmm.
So then where do you go? Well, what does everybody say is the bread and butter of this team? It's the defense. Everybody hypes up the defense. So why don't we get a defensive head coach? If I'm going to pick a replacement for Mike McCarthy, it's Vrabel. I'm going Mike Vrabel. I think he would bring an attitude to this team that they don't have, because this defense is a bunch of front runners, and if they get behind, they cannot make the plays and have that that dog in them to shut the other team down. And obviously there's a lot more issues that I can get into about the Cowboys, but I don't want to hold us forever here. But yeah, needless to say, I wasn't even mad. So I did end up turning off the game in the second quarter. I showered, had some dinner, and then I came back and watched the end of it, because then Dallas started kind of making a comeback, and I was like, all right, let me check it out. Let me see. I mean, but compared to the last 2 years, I wasn't even actually angry. I was just disappointed and just more frustrated.
Deflated, yeah.
Yeah, really, I can't believe this is happening again. Really? How is this happening again? 3 years in a row we're losing like this. Yeah, it was hard, man. And credit to Green Bay, man. Credit to LaFleur, man. That guy just knows how to coach.
Yeah.
And he just knows how to get the best out. And I mean, those guys were wide open. I mean, he just exposed Dan Quinn in a way.
The middle. Yeah.
Yeah, just exposed Dan Quinn. And that's another. I think Dan Quinn needs to go. I think that his defense has been very overrated. And I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm not saying that. But when you look down the stretch this season, his defense did not live up to it. And yeah, I just think he needs to go. I don't think for Dallas, you can't run this back. You cannot bring the same cast of characters back next year and expect Cowboys fans to buy back in, because it's been 3 years of this and it's just not working. So yeah, obviously very disappointed, very hurt. Because it just felt man, everything was really lining up this time. And that's on me for buying into it again, and letting this team kind of hurt me again. But it really did feel like this team I wasn't being this is our year or whatever, that dumb BS that I never actually hear Cowboys fans say. But it's for some reason associated with us. But I really thought that, hey, they have the best path to get to the championship game this year. And clearly this is not just a San Francisco problem. This is just if a team punches them in the mouth, they don't know how to respond.
And not to mention too, Dallas was at home. So we know how dominant they've been at home this year too.
16 straight.
Yeah. To see them just completely just get dominated the way they did was a shock to me. Certainly, I didn't expect that at all. And Carlos, you're right. I mean, the amount of wide open receivers that Jordan Love had right in the middle of the defense, right down the seam. I mean, how many times is Dallas going to give up that long pass down the seam?
Let me just address that really quick. So it has come out that Stephon Gilmore did tear his labrum in the Washington game. So that kind of did affect how they called the defense, because Gilmore they couldn't play man with Gilmore because he couldn't really jam his guy because his shoulder was hurt. So he probably just couldn't yeah, he probably just couldn't do it. So that affected them. That's why they played primarily zone, which is not something that Dallas usually does. And obviously these Green Bay receivers were able to always find the holes and just be open. But to me, it's like that's still not necessarily a great excuse. If Gilmore's that hurt, then maybe his assignment is different than everybody else's. Like, we should not have to stray away from what we've been just because one player can't execute. Like, then he shouldn't have played. And I get it. Like, he's he's the best guy we have on there, obviously with Diggs being hurt, but I don't know. Like, to me, it's just, but it wasn't just the secondary struggling. Like, it's not like the pass rush was getting to Jordan Love anyways. So,
yeah, that's the other thing too. Is like, you guys have been great at getting pressure most of the season, and it just wasn't happening. Didn't have Micah Parsons and most of the defense. It just wasn't a good game at all by the entire defense from front to back. And you got to give Green Bay a ton of credit. I mean, I know you didn't in your it's not a rant. I don't think you're ranting.
Whatever. I don't know.
Because I certainly expected it to be more dramatic than it has been. But I think you've also gotten, I hate to say used to it, but like, this has been a recurring theme for Dallas in the playoffs, and I know that they've disappointed you in that way before, so it's not a new feeling. So, what was I saying? Damn. See, there I go.
You were talking about the pass rush.
Credit to Green Bay for
being
able to, and even when Dallas was able to get pressure, I felt like Jordan Love was able to stand in there and really deliver some good.
Jordan Love played fantastic, man. He was
great.
It was excellent.
Great. Yeah.
Well,
it's just so frustrating that like, it's always my team that like these guys always have their breakout moments again. Like, it's never like, it's whenever anybody plays the Cowboys, it's like, I don't know, like, it just always happens. Like, somebody always has a breakout game and they always play their best because it's the Cowboys. And it's just like,
yeah,
why did I do this to myself? Like, why did I have to become a Cowboys fan? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, and I get it. Like, it's fun to make fun of us and stuff like that. And granted, we deserve it. Our team embarrassed us like that, but I just wish that, like,
there comes a time.
I just wish that this team would repay us for all the time we put into this. Like, again, like, we dedicate our money, our precious time to support this team, and year after year after year that they make the playoffs, it's always an embarrassment of a way that we get kicked out. Again, 2007, you lose to the Giants, then you get blown out by the Vikings in, what was it, 2009, 2010, something like that. Then, the Dez caught it game, which was a catch, but, that's not to say that even if they would have scored, that Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to just go down the field and score again. Then you get, then there's the Jared Cook catch on the sideline from Aaron Rodgers on Dak's rookie year. Then you get, beat by the Rams, and then you have the two back-to-back kicking, getting kicked out by San Francisco. And now this, it's like, it's just been what now? I don't know how many. I can't do the math right now. 14 years of this, man. And it's just annoying. It's frustrating. I understand that, like, I'm complaining about my team who is at least getting a chance to come in, compared to, say, like, your team, Kirby, who's, got the second overall pick. But it's just like, at least you guys know you guys don't have a chance. It's like with us, it's always we somehow get conned into believing we have a chance. And then this team just like is like, oh, psych, let me rip the rug from right under you. Or it's just like the girl from Charlie Brown, just what's her name?
Lucy. Yeah.
Lucy, like taking the football away. Yeah. And that's what it feels like. That's what the last 3 years have felt like. That, like, we got the matchups we wanted. 2021, for some reason, the fan base wanted San Francisco because we were like, Jimmy G, San Francisco.
At the end of his rope, yeah.
Yeah, well, San Francisco started off the season rough. We weren't afraid of them, and we got punched in the mouth. Last season, Brock Purdy, this is only his 7th start. Like, he's never faced a defense like ours. They still beat us. This year, we got the 2 seed. We win the division, and now we got Green Bay, who's a young team. They're going to be inexperienced. The lights are going to be too bright for them. And then the lights were too bright for us instead. Right. It's just like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just annoying. And like, again, how do you fix this? Like, how do you fix this? Like, I'm asking you guys, like, what do you think they have to do to get over the hump? Because it's getting ridiculous at this point.
I believe that Jerry Jones has a lot to do with the early success when he was there early on with Dallas. Of course, he was a big part of that, but he also bought a team that was already successful as well.
Yeah, but he bought them when they weren't. I mean, they had only had Tom Landry as a head coach up until that point.
True.
And in his first year, or at least within the first years, it's not like they were successful. I mean, they had a 1-in-15 year, or however many games they played back then.
Yeah, it was 16.
They only had like a 1-win season at one point. And it wasn't until he brought in Jimmy Johnson that it changed.
Yeah. But I think it's almost like he sold his soul for those few Super Bowls. Was it 2 or 3? 3 Super Bowls?
You got 3.
Three titles that like he's been paying for it, and the Dallas Cowboys have been paying for it in the playoffs ever since. I know that sounds stupid, but it's just like
I mean, it's a theory that's out there.
It's just like point. It seems like he is the problem, but he's never going to admit that. We know that that's the case. I don't know what the solution is there. I mean, you can't really force him to sell.
But let me ask this: like, at least for this season specifically, how was Jerry Jones the problem with this? With what happened this season specifically? Because I agree that Jerry Jones is too much out there, putting unnecessary pressure on this team by constantly being out there, constantly hyping up the Cowboys. Obviously, we are the most valuable franchise in the world, right? Yeah. Our fan base is massive, but what exactly did Jerry do this season that warrants the criticism that has been coming his way? Because he made great moves in the offseason. Again, trading for Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks was huge, because we needed a number 2 receiver because Michael Gallup was not cutting it. And, we needed somebody else with CeeDee Lamb. And then we needed another guy on the other side of Diggs, who obviously played a pivotal role when Diggs went down and stepped up into that prime, defensive back role very well, because he's a former defensive player of the year. So, and then, they made some pretty decent moves in terms of who they brought in and stuff like that. Like, I don't think Jerry was the problem this year. I do, again, him being in front of the microphone all the time after every game, that's the issue.
You saw that after the loss, how big that media scrum is.
But of course, but because they want they want to hear what the owner thinks. Obviously, like Kansas City loses, you're not hearing from Clark Hunt. I don't even know who's the owner of Baltimore, to be honest. I don't know who the Baltimore owner is.
Isn't it like Haslam or something? Some guy. Yeah, that's
Steve Bisciotti is the owner of the Ravens. Yeah.
All I know is
he's not Jerry Jones. He's not out there in front of the media.
I mean, you don't see a media scrum for all 32 teams with their owner.
I think you see a lot of
game.
A lot of solid owners don't do that. They don't want to do that.
But at this point, that's just part of the brand for Dallas. It's Jerry Jones. Like, he's just part of the brand. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I get that, right? I get he puts unnecessary pressure on the Cowboys by constantly being out there, talking. But how does that have anything to do with what happens on the field? What happened on the field Sunday had nothing to do with Jerry. That had everything to do with coaching. Being ill-prepared for that game, and for the players not having the fight. to want to change the narrative. They kept talking about this is legacy, and this is the legacy of the Cowboys for the past 30 years. Choke in the playoffs, lose somehow shoot yourselves in the foot and lose embarrassingly.
Yeah, I listen, I can't blame Jerry for this past weekend for sure. And I did think that Dallas made a lot of good moves. But like I think in general, like I know he's also the GM, and he has every role with the Cowboys.
Why don't you relegate?
Maybe it's time to bring somebody in to be the GM, just for
but
perspective.
But hold on. But again, we're saying that, but yet he made great moves this past offseason. So how can we ask the man to relegate himself when he actually did a great job of building this team? Granted, there was a lot of holes in it. The offensive line needs a lot of work. They need some legit linebackers, not converted safeties.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said it earlier on. They need some new faces. They need new personnel. They got to do something different because obviously what they're doing now is not working. And, I know Jerry Jones has already commented that there's going to be some change. Of course, he's said that with every playoff loss. And I think usually Dallas makes at least one change in the offseason when they have when their season ends like this. So. I mean, I can't say that he did poorly this season, but it might be time to shake things up. Like I know he was good this past year, but he's been criticized over the years. I mean, we know some of the bad moves he's made, so I don't have to go into it. But just someone to give a different perspective, someone to sort of challenge him a little bit, and I think that's important for this Dallas Cowboys team, because just having one guy be the controller of everything your team does, I think it can really be a detriment. Now, I don't think that was the case this year. I just think, quite frankly, Dallas played a shitty game from start to finish. And Green Bay did not. Green Bay was hungry, and you could just see the fire in their bellies. So, yeah, so that's my cop-out answer. I don't think, maybe, according to this past season, I thought Jerry Jones was fine. But he was a big part of the hype train, I think, too, for Dallas, which is part of his job and part of his personality, and
he's a salesman.
Part of who he is. He's a salesman. He's a businessman. So that's what he does. But that's why they get all the smoke they get. It's like, well, this is the you made your bed, and when you lose, you have to lie. You have to lie in it. So I think that's a bad what's it called? Anyway.
So
example.
One more thing to obviously we have to address that we should all talk about is Dak Prescott. Obviously he had MVP caliber season, probably going to come in second to Lamar. But we've seen consistently that he does not show up in the big moments in terms of in the postseason. He's a good regular season quarterback, but then when it comes to playoff time, for some reason, aside from the game against Tampa, he just does not show up. And this game was really, really bad. Like, it was an awful performance by Dak Prescott. I'm not blaming him completely, obviously, like some people are. I don't think it's all on him, and I don't think it's all on Mike McCarthy. I think just as a collective, as a team, nobody showed up to play.
Not a single.
But Dak Prescott was playing lights out all season, and for some reason, Sunday he went back to being 2022 Dak Prescott, where he was throwing these. He was pressing basically and not reading what the defense was showing him, going based off of the pre-snap look, and not actually going off of what then the defense actually was doing. He couldn't make the after snap read for some reason, and he's had an issue with this a lot. He struggles to read safeties. It just is what it is. There's obviously a lot of Cowboys fans are very volatile. So and they've been calling. There's a select section of the fan base that absolutely despises Dak Prescott, and they don't believe in him. I have never been in that camp. I like Dak Prescott. everything that he stands for, the human being he is. I've enjoyed his play for the most part, until we get to the playoffs. But there's obviously the talk that he's going to need an extension on his contract because we're looking at a almost $60 million cap hit next year if we either cut him or if we just let the contract ride as is. So but he's going to look to be the highest paid quarterback ever. He's looking for that type of contract. Doesn't make sense because he hasn't accomplished anything, but given the going rate for, quarterbacks at his level, because he is in the top, he's in the top 10. Like he's a top 10 quarterback. And we all know quarterbacks aren't easy to find. So for anybody saying that we just need to cut bait and just go with Trey Lance, that makes no sense. What did we see from Trey Lance? Trey Lance didn't play a single game this season. He lost his job to Brock Purdy. What are we doing here?
I'd say Cooper Rush more than Trey Lance.
I would never give my franchise to Cooper Rush. I would never. He's a great backup, but he's not a starter.
That one season he played
5 games and he went 4-1. But it wasn't like he was lights out. He was a serviceable quarterback.
He's more of a game
manager. He's not winning me a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he wasn't lighting it up. Yeah.
I agree with that.
So what do you guys think about this whole situation?
It's so hard.
It's a really hard question. I mean, you look at Dak and he has those great plays, but again, he also has those dumb moments where you throw a pick six or something like that. And I don't know. Does more of the good outweigh the bad in this situation? I think it's just something the Dallas Cowboys are going to need to address this offseason. Really look hard in the mirror and be like, is Dak our future? Or
he's not
going to have to move on.
I don't think we could say he's I get what you mean by the future.
He's older now.
He's going to be 31 next year. Right? Like he's already on the other side of 30 at this point. So it's like, okay, we've had 9 seasons of this. We see what this is. How much more can you change at this point? You're not a young guy anymore.
No, it's different if he's in his second, third, fourth year. Then you can have that conversation. I don't know. It's very difficult. Because like you said, a great quarterback is hard to find. I think Dallas does have to get a contingency in motion. The last thing they would want to happen is to have a Steelers Ben Roethlisberger moment where you literally just, you don't have a contingency in place. And I know the Steelers made the playoffs, but let's face it, they didn't deserve to be in the postseason. And then, he's just this old rotting corpse as your quarterback, and you don't have a replacement. You don't have a backup plan. You don't draft a quarterback, and then you do it 2 or 3 years too late. So I think that's one thing Dallas can't have happen. Now I'm not saying they should trade up and get a quarterback, but I think there's going to be some mid-round quarterbacks that can be pretty solid that I think Dallas could go after. But you don't have to cut bait now immediately with Dak Prescott. But you also don't want to give him like a ridiculous extension and put all your chips, on the table for him to, get your franchise a Super Bowl, because he's had the chance to do it since 2016 or something like that. If that's 8 years, if my math is correct, which is hard to believe. Holy cow, time flies. But yeah, I think to answer your question, they have to have a contingency in place, and just know that he's not a young guy anymore, and he's probably not going to give you much more than has already been his best. I think more than anything else.
Yep.
Well, let me say something that I've been trying to get out.
Okay.
Obviously Dallas.
How about them Cowboys? You haven't said that yet.
No, seriously. Jordan Love had $500,000 riding on this game as an incentive.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. He had $500,000 that he just cashed in on for beating the Dallas Cowboys. That was in his contract to win a playoff game.
It's nice. Wild.
It's very very good to see this Packers organization, this team striving to continue to get better. You had Aaron Rodgers for quite some time.
Who's
then
that?
I know you all don't like him, but still. Then Jordan Love comes in. It's sort of like when Rodgers took over for Favre, sort of like that same situation.
Identical situation.
The Packers,
A little bit of a difference though, because Rodgers' first season he was 6-11.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
true,
6-10. It was 6-10 back then.
yeah, but
Whereas Jordan Love's first season, he went to the playoffs and he beat the Cowboys.
It's true.
yeah, this I mean, eerily similar. But-
Not similar at all, in my opinion.
I mean,
I don't think it's similar at all. I think these are. I think the more impressive thing that is being shown here is it looks like, and everybody was writing Jordan Love off in the first half of the season.
Yeah.
I'm not writing him off.
I said in the first half of the season.
Yeah,
And you were. Everybody was.
Everybody
I don't know
did.
if you were actually.
I did.
I
certainly
didn't.
did.
I was saying everybody needed to chill out. It's his first year starting again, and then I would always point that out that Rodgers went 6-10 in his first season, and then won a Super Bowl 2 years later. So relax. You got to give the kid some time. He hasn't played football consistently since he was in college, and it has been 2-3 years since then.
Yeah.
but this game for Love and the Packers, a step in the right direction, and
Yeah.
maybe
Oh, I didn't even get to finish my point. I'm sorry, but no, but like I think the more impressive thing that everybody's, I think, is pointing out is that it looks like the Packers have done it again, and they're going to get another solid quarterback for another generation.
that's where I was
basically.
circling back.
Because you go from Favre to Rodgers, now you're going to Love.
Yeah, that's what I said. Eerily similar. You have a quarterback coming in, and
Then
he's
you're
looking
using the
like-
wrong word. Why are you saying eerily similar? Just say the successor is.
yeah,
They found another
the-
successor.
The
Yeah.
trajectory of the quarterbacks of the Green Bay Packers. Yes.
Well, no, yeah, I'm just saying it looks like the Packers are going down the trend of, oh, we have another solid quarterback that we can maximize his potential.
They don't
He
bail
makes
on quarterbacks.
Mahomes like throws.
Yeah.
Off his
But-
back foot. Just
Sidearmed
unbelievable.
it.
I mean, just big credit to the Green Bay Packers because they're the number 7 seed coming into AT&T Stadium, and they find a way to win, and they
There's a
do
reason.
it with grit, and they just looked impressive.
There's
I
a
mean,
reason
I
they're one of the
attribute
best
that a lot-
franchises. I mean, let's face
Yeah,
it.
and I attribute that a lot to their coaching. They have a great
Yeah.
coach. LaFleur is a good coach. A lot of people wanted to give Rodgers a lot of the credit for, those winning seasons, but I think this is showing that, hey, it was all like obviously having Rodgers is a plus. Especially back then, he was having MVP seasons, right? But like LaFleur is no, like what's the word? Stooge, scrunge, whatever the freak the word is himself, right? Like he's a he's a solid coach. So like I think this is one of like the best coaching jobs that he's ever done to lead this super young team. And that's the other thing, they're super young, so they got this team is only going to get better with age, and this was a huge stepping stone for them to get that confidence of coming into Dallas, beating the 2 seed, being the first 7 seed to beat a 2 seed, is good for them. And now they book their ticket to probably get their butts kicked by the 49ers, but you never know. They could also pull off the upset. It's not impossible.
So with that, the Green Bay Packers moving on, defeating the Dallas Cowboys 48-32.
Let's call it what it really was. It was 48-16.
Yeah, 2 garbage time scores late.
Yeah. But let's move to a storybook game with a very incredible ending. Matthew Stafford in the Los Angeles Rams, as Matthew Stafford makes his return back to Ford Field. Jared Goff facing his former team. Storybook Sunday night to end the Sunday slate of Super Wildcard Weekend. The the Lions get the 1-point victory over the Rams, 24-23. And boy, once that clock hit triple zeros, Ford Field was going nuts. Crazy stuff,
They've
man.
waited a long time for this.
A long time.
And now they're getting another playoff game.
Yeah, you had
Good
a fan
for them,
who was
man. Good for them.
a fan who was a ticket holder since '66. I think they had him on the
Yeah, he's like
broadcast.
89 years old.
Yeah, and he
My
yes,
grandma's age.
I think he's only seen I don't know how many playoff.
Well, the last time he saw one was in 91.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of the one before that because they had a long drought. Well, maybe not.
Dude,
as
I
long.
couldn't tell. I don't know Lions history like that.
I mean, I know they obviously haven't won a Super Bowl. Their last championship was in like.
It was that year, 91.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
true. Yeah.
So let me just say, he didn't do a lot, but Sam Laporta, after getting injured the week before, it came out, caught a touchdown pass. He looked like nothing ever got hurt. So good for him. Amon-Ra St. Brown, have yourself a day, 7 receptions, 110 yards. The running game, effective between Montgomery and Gibbs, and Jared Goff, 22 for 27, 277 yards and a touchdown pass. I mean, really great stuff by this Detroit Lions team.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Matthew Stafford finally got the Lions a playoff win. You
But
know,
for the other team.
yeah.
That was a good joke that was going.
Yeah,
on.
I saw that joke everywhere.
Yeah.
Look, this is obviously a very emotional game just because of the history that links these two teams in terms of, their quarterbacks. The Rams just they've been playing very well lately, and they're an exciting team. Puka Nacua is just he's
so
incredible,
good.
man.
Beast,
He's
man.
so good.
Oh my gosh.
So good. But this Lions team just, I mean, it just feels like it's, especially now with the Cowboys being knocked out, it's lined up great for them to make a return to the NFC Championship game and to really give that fan base something to be excited about. And this was a big test, man. Like, this was a big test, and they passed it. Obviously they passed by the skin of their teeth, but they still passed. And in the playoffs, a win is a win. And that's all that matters. It's survive in advance. And they did what they needed to do. And for Sean McVay and the Rams, what a great season. I mean, there was not a lot of expectations. They're still dealing with the what's the word I'm looking for here? The implications of that Super Bowl season of selling out to win that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they're still dealing with it, but man, did they draft themselves a great draft class that immediately contributed and really helped this team, push, make this playoff push. And honestly, I would actually kind of want to say the Rams were the better team, but that home field advantage eventually was what got the Lions over the top there. And again, congrats to Detroit fans. They deserve it. They've been such a cursed franchise and such a haunted franchise, tormented franchise for years. And for them to finally get that playoff win, to finally get a playoff game at Ford Field, which is insane that thing has been open since 2003 and they haven't had one playoff game there. For them to finally get that win, give those fans that experience of finally tasting playoff success and looking like, and now the pathway is clear for them. I mean, they got the Bucks next week, which they can easily handle the Bucks.
I think so.
I mean, if there's a fan base that deserve this, it's them.
No, I think Carlos said it perfectly.
In that fan base provided a lot of energy. Don't sleep energy. Use promo code KOS podcast for 12% off your order every single time.
Kill me every time.
That's our plug. There we go.
That was awful.
Oh, is that what that was? I'm glad you've learned the radio lingo there, Kirby.
Shameless plug.
Regardless, I agree with Carlos. I think you made a great point. I think the Rams were probably the better team in this game, but I think the Lions, when it mattered most, were just more physical and more
Absolutely.
dominant at the point of attack, and you could just feel they were feeding off that crowd. And I think late in the game, especially when they had to have a big play or a big stop, I just felt like they came through and they were able to do it. And they also got a good amount of pressure on Matt Stafford too, which we all know that any quarterback that gets hit a lot is probably gonna make some mistakes.
Yeah,
Or I think,
he was in the tent a lot.
yeah, he was hurt a lot in this game. So but Detroit was definitely physical, and I think that's a reflection of Dan Campbell and the job he's done to sort of impose that style of play.
His personality, really.
His personality, yeah, with this team, really on both sides of the ball, and you can sort of see that, and you can see that in the fan base too. He's perfect for that town. It's a blue collar town.
Yeah, 100%.
One of America's cornerstone towns. So that is, is certainly Dan Campbell reflects that, I think, perfectly. And I know I was critical of him throughout, his tenure as the Lions head coach, but you got to credit with what he's been able to do with this team. And
he's built he's built a solid culture there.
Yeah,
sure.
It's a damn good culture.
It really started last year, the second half of last season.
Yeah,
started.
You saw what they could become, and I think it just took some cultivation to get there.
And thus far, they're living up to it. So good on them, and good on Sean McVay and that Rams organization for
solid
for
organization
weathering the storm and really hitting on their draft picks.
Yeah, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with too.
I mean, I don't know how much longer Stafford's gotten him, but
yeah, I think they're going to have to talk about a team.
They're definitely going to have to start looking for an heir apparent for Stafford, because that guy has been through so much, many injuries.
He just gets beaten down more than any other quarterback I think I've ever seen.
Super tough, but I mean, I don't know how much his body's going to be able to take.
It's just nuts. I just don't know how he continues to get up a lot of times. But yeah, I think that's all I have. This was just a really fun smash mouth game, kind of old school. Low scoring, I guess, in today's NFL. I guess not. 24-23 isn't. It
was the only competitive game, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Every other game was a blowout.
I think that's what made it most exciting. But yeah, it was definitely an enjoyable game, and hats off to the Lions, man. They deserve this one, and I think they can get to the NFC Championship game. I know we're going to talk about that as well.
Indeed.
We're going to get to that and so much more. 2 more games to get to, and the Kirby on Sports PickEm. So glad you're with us here on episode 200 of the Kirby on Sports podcast. We'll take another quick break, and we're back with more right after this.
Hey, Kirby on Sports podcast listeners, Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate here. It may seem scary or daunting at first to think about buying or selling a home. Well, look no further. Give me a call. 540-247-1527. There's nothing more than I love to do than help my friends make those transactions fun, interesting, and at the end of the day, productive. Look me up online, iconsells.com, and even better, find me on my podcast, Iconic Talk, with my co-host Megan Eanes on any podcast platform. We will share all the local news about real estate markets and our local community. It's educational. Look us up. We'd love to help you. iconsells.com, 540-247-1527.
Bedbugs. The only thing creepier than thinking about them is actually having them. Trust me, you don't want to have them. Locally owned and operated Barrett Pest and Termite Services can keep you from having bedbug nightmares and infestations. Call 540-340-3922 to schedule your free inspection and consultation. If bedbugs are already in your home, we'll get rid of them so you can rest easy. We also specialize in keeping homes and businesses free of other pests, including rodents and termites. That's Barrett Pest and Termite Services, 540-340-3922.
All right, 2 more games left to get to. Not as exciting, but we will touch on them. A game that got moved to Monday afternoon. The Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers prepping.
How about them Steelers? I know that's not the phrase, but shit. I love it.
Yeah. Your buddy Bob Summers was hoping the Steelers would win.
Yeah, he can be quiet, man. This is why we can't pick Pittsburgh. Come on, they're not a serious team. Come on.
the Bills defeating the Steelers 31-17 in what was obviously cold weather environment post blizzard, but the field looked nice. But obviously Buffalo came out and got the job done.
Yeah, it was an impressive win for Buffalo. I really don't have much to say other than
There's not a lot to say. I mean, they started off hot, they cooled down for a little bit, and then they finished it off.
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like Pittsburgh was just trying.
There's
to keep
not
up.
a lot to say on this game, honestly.
There's really not. Pittsburgh was just trying to keep up, and they
made it close for a little bit there. They made it a little exciting, but then Buffalo just stomped on their necks and said,
"Yeah." Okay. Even though George Pickens thinks the refs gave the game to the Bills, I think it was George Pickens. I can't remember who.
I don't know, man. I don't care. It gave the. I mean, you guys were never gonna. You guys had Mason Rudolph. Like, stop. Stop.
Yeah. That's a question too. Do the Steelers stick with him going forward, or what do they do? Their quarterback.
I don't know what they're gonna do. Quarterback. I mean, do you go back to Pickett? I don't know.
I don't think you can. Pickett.
I don't know what you do. I really don't. You wasted a first-round draft pick on Pickett.
Yeah, it's just a hard situation.
I don't know.
And if their defense wasn't as good as they have been, they wouldn't.
Well, they also didn't have Watt in this game, so we do have to preface that
sure.
They didn't have their best defensive player, But
don't disagree with that.
I don't know what you do if you're Pittsburgh, because they're not known to make a lot of changes at head coach, just historically, obviously. But
they've had 3 head coaches in 50 years or something like that, which is just crazy
exactly.
to think about.
I mean, they went from Walsh to Cowher to Tomlin.
Chuck Noll was
there's Chuck Noll in there.
Chuck Noll, Cowher, and then Tomlin. It's just crazy. I think Noll got there in like the late 60s, so that just goes to show you how long he was there.
Yeah,
he was there for like 30 years.
Yeah, they just don't make a lot of changes. But like at the same time, it's like Tomlin hasn't had this like dominant force of a team in a long time. So like it might be, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. They're just, I don't know. But shout out to the Bills, man. I mean,
they were impressive in this game,
keeping it going, man.
Yeah, and
setting up for round 3, baby.
It's gonna be a great matchup. Can't wait to
Kirby,
see.
We live streaming again.
Hey, I'll tell you, it's the first ever Buffalo Invitational.
Please stop.
I believe it's called Highmark Stadium.
The Highmark Invitational.
No, it just doesn't work. It doesn't fit like the Arrowhead.
They haven't done it like 7 years in a row like Kansas City did.
Dude, they always that's so weird to me that like Buffalo always comes to Kansas City. Like Kansas City has never gone to Buffalo. Like even in the regular season matchup. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's always at Kansas City. I'm like, can we switch this up every now and again? Why does it always have to be an Arrowhead? Like, I understand the playoffs, like you can't, that's just a seeding thing. But like the regular season, like why is it always Kansas City?
Yeah, they're supposed to alternate, but I guess they only play.
Well, that's
every
like
2
one
years.
of those, like it's just one of those first place, second place, like schedule type things, right?
Yeah, it's
and for some reason it always works out that it's in Kansas City. I don't know. I don't know, man.
It's bizarre.
My only points I'll take away: the Bills' very dominant performance before we move on. And after the Steelers lost, Mike Tomlin walked out after being asked about his tenure. I mean,
what
heard
is he going to say?
Is returning, though.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, of course,
I'm not
surprised.
surprised.
And the Steelers are the epitome of consistency. They don't make these.
They don't make a lot of changes.
Carlos and I were talking about this when you stepped away. They're not an organization that makes these types of brash moves. Not that I think firing would be a brash move, but look, he's been successful there. It's just he hasn't had the playoff success in the since they
in a while. The Super Bowl. Honestly, yeah, it's been a hot second since they've been like actually like in the Super Bowl chase.
Yeah,
like everybody keeps praising because he's never had a losing season, but which is great, right? That's great, but like that's not to say like he's had a bunch of 8-8 years. Like that's not the biggest flex that you think it is.
But I don't know if you can blame him just because, I think the whole Ben Roethlisberger thing, keeping him for
I just think this team I mean, they just really struggle to move off of players that like clearly don't have anymore. it's just, like they're very loyal to their players that like
Once you're a
really
Steeler,
contribute to the franchise.
Steeler, yep.
But like we all knew a long time ago that Roethlisberger was done, and you had to move off of him, and they just wouldn't do it. This man held this franchise hostage.
Agreed.
And then they reached at Kenny Pickett, thinking that he was going to be the answer.
Oh,
Who knows? I mean, baby hands over there. You never know. I don't know, man. We'll see.
Yeah, their quarterback situation will be interesting moving forward. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Buffalo clearly the better team on paper and clearly the better team throughout this game. So.
And with that, one more matchup on Monday night. You know, Carlos.
It's a hunter.
Is this
It's
thing
a wild
on?
Hunter.
Is this thing on?
Well,
hey,
listen.
Hey, hold on.
Hey,
Felice,
no.
Felice,
Hold
Felice,
on.
are you listening, Felice? Felice, I have one chant for you. Cry,
Eagles, cry! Cry, Eagles,
That actually like kind of
Cry,
softened the blow.
Eagles,
Okay,
cry!
chill out.
All
I
right.
don't care.
Chill out.
I love it.
Chill
Number
out.
5 pick.
Chill out.
I love it.
Kirby, chill out. Okay, you take it too far. Chill out. Okay,
Always a step.
chill out. Chill out.
Dallas losing was one thing, but for Philly to get blown out by Tampa Bay, ooh,
They made Baker Mayfield look
how
like
you doing,
look like
Philly?
2013 Peyton Manning. He was out
Hey,
there.
Nick
He was killing it.
Sirianni, did Tampa Bay beat you in the wild card
Here we go
game?
again. He's just using the same memes. Stop. Just stop.
I
All right,
love it.
He's the Nick Sirianni of this podcast. Kirby is the Nick Sirianni of this podcast.
No, I'm not. I'm
He's
not,
a Class
I'm not
A
that Nick
stooge.
Sirianni.
He's a Class A stooge. He's a Class A clown, just like you.
Exactly.
Well,
I mean, in all honesty, Kirby, you really shouldn't be talking any type of crap.
That's what I'm saying.
Your team has the second overall pick.
Well-
Shut your mouth.
well,
know your
Dallas
role
doesn't.
and
Dallas
shut your
doesn't.
mouth. You can't even make the dance.
Dallas doesn't have a second overall pick. Come
Okay,
on now.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Your team was
Yeah,
eliminated
you know.
a month ago.
Congratulations.
Kirby.
You know,
What?
yeah, we got this. We got
Kirby,
this.
you got the
You were the-
second overall pick because your team sucks.
Yeah,
Shut
but
up.
You know, what, hey,
No,
we're
shut
turning the corner.
your mouth.
We're turning the
Just
corner.
shut your mouth.
Hey, at least
shut
we
your
knew
mouth.
we were
Shut-
sitting
shut-
at home.
hey,
Unlike
you
the Dallas
commie. Shut your
Cowboys,
mouth, commie.
who got
Commie.
annihilated
Commie, shut your mouth.
by the Green Bay Packers.
Why is he
The
talking
crazy
like his
thing
team?
is like.
Wait,
the-
wait, hold on.
Washington
Didn't your
was
team just
eliminated
get
a month
annihilated by
ago?
Dallas last week? Didn't your team get annihilated by Dallas on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, that's Dallas' Super Bowl, bud. Sorry,
That's not a Super Bowl. We don't celebrate beating you guys. Okay, beating you guys is honestly just another Sunday. Okay,
I have an important point here. So in the
unlike
week
hold
six-
on. Unlike you guys last year when Sam Howell blew us out, you were like, "Yeah, Sam Howell's the guy." Yeah. And now look where you guys are, second overall pick. Shut your mouth and know your role. You 3-time loser, just like your team. You can't win anything. Get out of here.
How did we get from
quarterback graveyard. Quarterback
Because
graveyard.
you took
Kirby.
it too far. You
Quarterback graveyard.
took it too far, and then you started talking all this crap for some reason. So
Mm.
now I had to put you in your place.
Well,
Wait. But Sam Howell was leading the league in week 7 in passing.
Oh,
yards.
he's
Is
elite,
that-
bro. He's
yeah.
elite.
I'm like, what?
Guys, let's get back on track here.
Oh,
The
now we're going to get back on
Buccaneers-
track.
The Buccaneers, though,
No, they whooped him.
they looked pretty good.
The
Yeah, they
Eagles
whooped
They
can't
looked
tackle.
really good.
The Eagles quit. The Eagles quit. They
It was
quit in the
pathetic.
first quarter.
It's pathetic. Yeah.
I will say, seeing Jason Kelsey and announcing his retirement, that was pretty sad after all the blood, sweat, and tears he has been through with the Eagles organization. But I think that gives him more time to improve new heights and make it even better with Travis still playing. Who knows? That could have been done, but still, the podcast. But
We know, Kirby. We have no comment.
But that was sad. But the rest of it, I saw a video, a fan threw popcorn on Nick Sirianni as he was leaving. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's been nothing but it's just been Dallas and Philly hate on social media, which has been interesting to see.
The Philly hate I love, obviously.
But Philly
The
especially so.
Dallas hate I feel is warranted just because, we
Just
were terrible.
Just the cockiness of Sirianni. Like if you're
Well,
going to
just,
go out there
again,
and proclaim that
they
you're so
are-
high and mighty.
they are front runners. They were all cocky, puffing their chest out when they're winning, and then a little adversity shows his face. They get their butts kicked by San Francisco, and they faltered so hard. I mean, listen, we got our proper butts, like we got a proper butt kicking from San Francisco as well.
Yes.
Okay, like Dallas did, but what did Dallas do after that? They went and racked off some wins after that. Okay, Philly had the easiest schedule coming out after that. Obviously, they played Dallas after that, and we beat the brakes off of them. But then after that, they literally just had to win out, and they would have won the division. And they couldn't. They barely beat the Giants on Christmas. You lose to the Cardinals
to the Giants.
Giants. Like, I don't know, man. Just whatever.
Yeah, it's just like if you're gonna be that obnoxious a-hole guy as the head coach of a football team, you know, you have to be prepared for this type of stuff when you lose. So I
what does Sirianni do? Like, I never understood.
No tears for that guy.
He doesn't call plays. Like, what is he? Just a vibes guy? Like, he can't keep this locker room together when it's going south.
He screams
like,
at the officials. I'll tell you that much. For
like, what are we doing here, man? Like,
interesting reasons.
It looks like when you think, like, when you go back to the 2021 season, the year before they went to the Super Bowl, right? When the season turned around because he gave up play calling and gave it to what's his name, Steichen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then they make it to the playoffs and they get, crushed by coincidentally Tampa Bay. Right? Then 2022 is their Super Bowl year. They had one of the easiest schedules, right? But they were bludgeoning teams, and then they just and then they had one of the most epic Super Bowl performances of all time. Obviously, they lost, because of a holding call, which controversial, I understand, but it was holding. Or was it pass interference or holding? I think it was pass interference.
Pass interference, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was pass interference. And it was a PI call, right? And then of course, Steichen leaves, goes to Indianapolis. Indianapolis almost makes the playoffs. He did great with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, who he's all right. He's not terrible.
He's
a solid quarterback. He's not going to win you a Super Bowl, but he can get you some wins. And then, you had Gannon leave to go to Arizona. And then he has these other two guys. I don't even know who their names are. I know the defensive coordinator is Desai. And then for some reason,
Desai got demoted.
Hold on. Let me get there. Damn, bro. Shut the hell.
Yeah. I didn't know if you knew. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, because I don't know about the Matt Patricia nonsense. I don't know why the hell they thought that. Oh, let me give it to the guy who couldn't stop the Eagles in the Super Bowl against the Patriots.
Yeah.
Couldn't stop him for anything. And then somehow got the job at Detroit, did terrible in Detroit, comes back to New England at some point as the offensive coordinator, which made no sense. And he pooped the bed there. Let me bring him on the staff and then make him the defensive coordinator because we need to make a change.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, and then the defense just after that just went down into the gutter. And yeah, man, just what
I wonder if he'll end up in New England next season.
Probably not.
With Gerard Mayo.
Mayo's not bringing. Why would you bring him on? Why would you bring him on? That guy sucks. Matt Patricia's not good. He's a terrible coordinator.
Yeah, he's not good. He was just able to shine because he had Bill Belichick and the TB12.
I still can't believe I got to sing that stupid fight song during our draft show.
I hope you start rehearsing, man. It's 3 months from now.
It's fast. I have to wear the jersey and I have to sing the song of this mediocre team.
Well, with that, very impressive performance by Tampa
How about Baker
Bay.
Mayfield? How about everybody wrote him off and everything like that.
What a steal for the Bucs though. I mean, they're only paying him like $8 million right now.
There you go.
Like nobody, like this dude was out of the league last year. Like once he got cut by Carolina, like nobody wanted him, and then he got one stint with the Rams, and that got him the Tampa Bay job. He beat out Kyle Trask, or as Dan likes to call him, Kyle Trash.
You like that?
Okay, Kirk. Chill out.
Nah, I didn't yell it.
But no, yeah, no. Look, it's just crazy that like this Philly team was in the Super Bowl last year, and they just get completely crushed by Baker. Yet the Carolina Panthers last week were giving Baker all sorts of fits. So like,
Weird.
Are we?
So
I mean,
weird.
I don't know, man. Philly might be the worst team in the league right now. Just in terms of play, not in terms of roster talent, not in terms of all that. Like they have a very talented roster, obviously, but Jalen Hurts regressed big time this season. I don't know what's going on with the whole AJ Brown situation.
Yeah, something seems like Jalen just seems off mentally. Honestly,
AJ
like,
Brown feels.
just,
I don't know, man. That feels. I don't want to say it, but it feels diva-ish. It feels diva-ish.
I mean, he's a receiver, right? That sort of comes with the territory.
I mean, sort of, but like then you got guys like CeeDee Lamb, like.
Well, you got guys who aren't, right? But I think a lot of
But like
cases,
you got to look at the way it ended in Tennessee. It's like if it's not going well, then he's gonna throw a fit. And I don't like that, but I don't know. Whatever. Let's get off of this game.
Well, it was a fun one, and it's going to make for a very fun matchup. But one more break, and then we have a preview of the divisional round and our picks. You don't want to miss it.
Hi, this is Mark Peter Lynch with Guild Mortgage. One of the greatest joys in doing business over the last 30 years in the Shenandoah Valley is helping people buy their first home. Buying their first home and putting the keys in their hand at the closing table has brought me so much joy. If you want to buy your first home, a second home, or an investment property, or build wealth through investment in real estate, give me a call. My phone number is 540-664-4700, or you can find me on the World Wide Web at www.marksmortgage.com.
All right, thanks so much for sticking with us through a very incredible wild card weekend. It is now time to talk about the divisional round and give you our picks. Carlos Martinez, I will send it to a very, very great winner because I'm just a stooge cream cheese loser.
Shut the hell up and put the graphic on, okay? You're going to get you got to take your lick-ins right now, okay? Because, ladies and gentlemen, we officially have an elimination. It has usually taken until either the end of the conference championship or the actual Super Bowl. But no, this time it was just the wild card. Ladies and gentlemen, your loser for the third straight year is your host, CEO, and founder of the Kirby on Sports Podcast, Joshua Cream Cheese Kirby.
I don't know.
There we go.
There you are.
Our loser dance.
This is very disturbing. Oh, God.
Thank you for that, Carlos.
Oh, God.
Thank you
Turn it
for
off.
that
Turn it off.
wonderful
Turn it off.
introduction.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
Thank
Turn
you very
music
much
off.
for that wonderful
We are burning
introduction.
so much.
We got to get going. We got to get going.
Nobody's going
And
to listen to
I
this 2 hour.
am proud to be the loser because next year it will not be that way. Now continue, sir.
Oh, you said that the last 2 years.
You said
You're
that the
full of
last
crap.
3 seasons.
You're full of crap.
It's 3 things. 3 things guaranteed in life: death, taxes, Kirby finishes in last place, baby.
Exactly.
That's how it goes. Okay, but anyways, so with that being said, Kirby at this point is just picking because for pride, just to make sure he pads his record. But realistically, he's stuck in last place. He's 10 games behind me, and we only have 7 games to pick from left. So sucks, tragic.
Yeah,
You're
it's
punished.
nuts.
Another year of punishment. You still owe us for the first 2 years, but we already talked about that. Anyway, so of course, this is the divisional round pick'ems. We're only picking 4 games instead of the usual 6 because there's only 4 games left, or there's only 4 games this week.
This
So
season has flown by.
it really has. It really, really has. I can't believe we're here already. So obviously that we're going to be picking Oh, I'm sorry. So the standings currently are Dan. He did regain a game on me, so he now sits at 76 and 38. I am, of course, in second at 74 and 40, and Kirby is permanently in last place at 64 and 50.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate it.
with that being said, we're obviously picking the divisional game: San Francisco, Green Bay, Baltimore, Houston, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Detroit, Tampa Bay. I will, of course, just tell my picks and briefly give my thoughts on the picks. San Francisco, it's just they're the number 1 seed. I think they're going to overpower the Packers, and the Packers really struggle in San Francisco unless they have Aaron Rodgers, and they don't have Aaron Rodgers. And I think this defense, they've had a week of rest, and I think they're going to be ready to go, and they're going to crush the Packers. I'm going to take the Ravens over the Texans. Obviously, this is a rematch from week 1. And which Baltimore won. Let's hope that they continue their momentum that they've had. They've technically had 2 weeks off. Granted, given that the starters did not play week 18. So but I think Baltimore will. I think this is just, it's their year for me. So I'm going Baltimore. I'm obviously contractually obligated to take the Kansas City Chiefs. But I also think Buffalo is not all that scary. They barely beat us, in whatever week that was. I can't remember. It was the week that we went to the game where we went to go see Ravens Rams. They barely beat us then. And I think the Chiefs offense has figured out a little bit of a formula to have more success than they did back, in December. Give me the Chiefs over the Bills, and then of course give me the Lions over the Bucks. I think the Lions they're just a better team than Tampa, and I think that atmosphere is going to be electric, just like it was for their last round game. And just give me the Lions over the Bucks. With that, I send it over to your current first place resident, Dan Dembski.
Thank you, Carlos. Good picks. Do disagree with one. I will discuss. But yeah, give me the 49ers over the Packers. I think the Niners, obviously being the number 1 seed, being the best team in the NFC, I would be shocked if the Packers pull off this upset. It would be one of the biggest upsets we've seen in a long time in the National Football League. So I think the 49ers win that game. Of course, I'm going to pick my Ravens over the Houston Texans. Definitely going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The Texans have been an impressive team, but first of all, I'm contractually obligated to pick my team, and secondly, this has to be their year, like coming out of the AFC. Has to be. I'm going to take the Bills over the Chiefs. Since this, I know we talked about this earlier, but this is the first time that Kansas City has had to travel for playoff games in the Patrick Mahomes era, which is going to be interesting to see. Kansas City has seen and faced so many challenges. I think they're definitely well equipped to go in there and beat Buffalo, but I've just been impressed with what Buffalo's done, and every time I've seemed to have doubted Buffalo, they have come through, and Josh Allen especially has come through and made a big play. So I do think Buffalo has the slight edge in this matchup, and I do think it comes down to the end. Buffalo is able to pull this one off to advance to the AFC title game. And then lastly, give me the Detroit Lions over the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Lions are sort of the best story in the NFL right now, and I think it will continue. Dan Campbell's boys are playing great football right now. They seem to have it working in all phases, and I just think they have the toughness to win this football game, and I also just think they're the better team as well. So with that, I will throw it to your host. And last place, once again, Mr. Josh Kirby. We have to mention it at the top and mention it at the bottom. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I will be picking the 49ers.
Loser.
I will be picking the 49ers.
Loser.
Thank you, Carlos. And that concludes the Kirby on Sports PickEm. Thank you very much for that. 49ers, Ravens, Chiefs, Lions. The Lions, obviously, I think they're playing really good football. Something magical is happening with that team. I think they make it to the championship.
Would you say it's as magical as you losing 3 years in a row?
Goodbye. Okay, well, we're taking him off the set. So then I'm picking the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the rain.
This isn't a set. This is a virtual studio.
Set like he's at like he's on NFL and Fox. Come on.
All right, I'm picking the Chiefs. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think the Chiefs slightly over the Bills. I think the Ravens, they have the first round bye. They're playing good football. And as always, it's another first down Ravens.
Shut
right.
the hell
All
up.
right.
Oh my
All right.
God.
And the 49ers, because I think they have what it
Gonna get
takes
another
to get
smack.
it done against the 7th seed Green Bay Packers. And the Packers, like Carlos said, have had trouble in San Francisco. So that
real quick,
concludes.
hold on. So real quick, Dan can pretty much guarantee at least a tie if the Buffalo Bills win, because then you will be 3 games up on me and we will only have 3 games left.
That's right.
So Dan could clinch this whole thing and win our spanking brand new Pick'em's title that we have to discuss when to purchase.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, listen, boys. We're getting too close to the end.
No,
I don't like this. I don't like how fast the season has gone. I really don't.
It's insane. Where does the time go?
Ugh.
So that concludes the divisional round pick'em. It's going to be a fun weekend of football. But with that, that concludes episode 200 of the Kirby on Sports podcast. Boys, 200 strong, baby.
2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours for 200.
2
That's
hour
right.
special for episode 200.
Brutal.
With that, we thank our sponsors, PM Plus Reserves, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, Shenandoah Primitives, Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate, Barrett, Pest, and Termite Services, Mark Lynch with Guild Mortgage, and the official energy drink of the Kirby on Sports podcast, Don't Sleep Energy. Use promo code KOS Podcast for 12% off your order every single time. Make sure you check us on all streaming platforms and all social media platforms and www.KirbyOnSportsPodcast. And make sure you always like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for all your support. 200 episodes strong. Carlos, send us off.
Carlos is frozen, so Kirby, send us off.
Carlos is frozen. I am sending you off with a very safe rest of your evening. Thank you once again for all the support. 200 strong, and we will catch you next time. So long, everybody, and thank you again.